You may have heard the advice that you should be talking about benefits instead of features when you're selling something. It's a pretty well known copywriting principle. One of my favourite examples comes from copywriting guru Robert Bly, and he says that if you were selling a pencil, you wouldn't talk about how it's hexagonal in shape because that's a feature. You would talk about the benefit of that shape. So you would say how this pencil, because of its shape, doesn't roll off the table. So this makes sense, and it has worked for many, many years. But here's what I'm going to say, something I've never said before: scrap it. In this episode, I'm going to explain why the whole benefits versus features conversation is often taught, but it doesn't quite cut it anymore, especially for education businesses, and what we need to be focusing on instead. Now, if we haven't met, I'm Samantha McMahon, and I'm a former teacher, current professional tutor, and a qualified business trainer. I support tutors and edupreneurs like you to develop businesses that are lucrative, impactful, and sustainable. And to make things more lucrative, we need to be sophisticated about how we sell, how we connect with potential clients, and how we create desire for what we offer. So, today I'm going to dive into why we need to scrap the whole benefits and features thing and what we need to be doing instead. So, before we dive in, let's go through a little bit of context. This whole benefits versus features comes from a place that's very transactional, and it assumes that if you explain the benefit clearly enough, people will buy. And for a long time, in more traditional markets, that was true. But consumer behavior has shifted. People are not just buying what you do, they're buying who you are, why you do it, and how it feels to work with you. And in the world of education businesses, that matters because your clients aren't always the direct users of your service. They might be parents, schools, students, agency managers, guardians, and each of them have their own emotional and practical context. So, we're going to look at three ideas that will help you move beyond the benefits and features into something that actually creates desire and connection. The first thing is to create your customer first, then get more emotive in how you talk about value, and then create desire before you ever try to sell. So, let's start with the first principle of creating your customer first. One of the biggest limitations of the traditional benefits versus features discussion is that it assumes there's a ready made customer out there just waiting to be told what you're offering. But often that's not quite the case. A benefit or a feature only matters if someone already knows they want it. If they don't know, or if they aren't sure yet, then they have a problem that needs solving before that. And talking about benefits simply doesn't cut through that. So instead of starting with a list of benefits, start with the kind of customer that you want to create, not in a demographic checklist kind of way, but in a psychological way. So ask yourself, what kind of person will see themselves in the solution I offer? What are they thinking about before they even consider working with me? What frustrations, hopes, or hesitations do they have? Now, this matters because your messaging, including how you talk about what you offer, is shaped by where your audience is in their own journey. For example, if you're a tutor who wants to attract parents of anxious learners, the conversation doesn't start with, I help children get better grades. That's a benefit. It starts with, I see how hard it is when your child hates learning and you're exhausted trying to motivate them. That's where the empathy comes first. That's how you create the idea of a customer who's already part of your world, emotionally and mentally. And when you create that customer, you can then talk about what they desire, which will make your features and benefits meaningful, not abstract. So essentially, what we're doing here is we're using our language really intentionally, almost like a gatekeeper. So we're getting the right people through that gate. We are making sure we connect with them, we empathize with them, we're showing that we really understand the position they're in before we try offering anything. And of course, when you're then offering it and you're talking about the benefits, those benefits suddenly come to life. They're not just this kind of transactional exercise where, you get unlimited recordings of my lessons so you can learn when you want. And this is really important in the world of education because what we're doing has a really emotive impact, a really meaningful impact. We're impacting children's lives, parents' lives. Lots of people are involved in this, lots of people feel that impact. And so you can't lose the empathy side and just dive straight into here's what I offer and here's why it's convenient for you. You need that emotional connection. And that leans into my second principle, which is to get more emotive. Let's unpack that for a second. Getting more emotive. Now, features are factual, but benefits are still transactional. They're not emotional as such, but it's emotion that drives decision making. People don't buy something because it looks good on paper. They buy it because it resonates with something that they're feeling. Now, you might be thinking, well, this doesn't apply to everything, but it kind of does. If you're buying, let's say, a coffee machine, you are buying into that feeling of what your mornings might look like. You're buying into that feeling of what it's going to look like in your kitchen and what kind of difference it's going to make to your life or when you're hosting people, for instance. So there's still emotion behind buying something that doesn't feel very emotive, which is a coffee machine. Now, if that's emotive, then what we do certainly is emotive. So, when we talk about the emotion and the emotive side of things, we're creating desire before you sell because desire isn't just wanting something, it's a pull. It's an emotion that makes someone think, I need this or this feels right for me. And you can't create desire with features or benefits alone. So let's go back to that pencil example. Saying that it doesn't roll off the table is a benefit, but why would that matter to me? Maybe it matters because I get distracted when my tools aren't organized, or I lose focus during a lesson when things feel chaotic. So you're translating a benefit to an actual useful situation. It's going through a useful lens. So instead of I offer one-to-one tuition that improves grades, you might say, imagine a learner who confidently enters their exam room, calm, prepared, and how proud of how far they've come. That second version isn't a feature. It's not even a benefit as traditionally described. It's a felt transformation. And that's what creates desire. When your audience can feel the outcome, not just understand it, that's when they begin to imagine themselves already in that future. And the imagined future is what pulls them towards you. So that's a foundational reason why the benefits versus features conversation feels a little outdated. It's transactional. It assumes that people come to you already thinking in terms of logic and rational choice, but our brains don't work that way. We make meaning and decisions through emotion first, logic second. Now, this leads really nicely into the third principle, which is creating desire before you actually sell. If you jump straight to benefits or features like I help with exam technique or my course includes X number of lessons and worksheets and feedback sessions, you're asking someone to reflect on what you offer before they've really had a chance to develop the desire for it. And creating this as an education business owner can be really powerful. So, this might look like the kind of content that really draws someone, attracts someone to you. So, something that helps them feel rather than just know or understand. Narrative driven messaging works too, like stories, examples, reflections, metaphors, analogies. Essentially, we're helping people imagine outcomes before explaining offerings. We're using emotional, resonant language that connects with real human experience. So here's the key difference: features and benefits. That's here's what the offer includes and what it does. Whereas desire first messaging is this is the transformation, this is the experience, this is the feeling that would make someone want this offer. And the latter is what moves people from that interested phase to action. So rather than saying, my sessions improve writing skills, you might say, imagine your child submitting essays with confidence, knowing they can express themselves clearly and feeling proud of their progress. Now, I kind of pulled that example out of thin air, but as an English tutor, that example came very naturally to me because when it comes to writing, majority of parents will say to me, my child says they've got the ideas, but they don't quite know how to put it down on paper. So, what I'm doing is I'm actually repeating back what people are telling me. And I've talked about this before. It's a really good idea to do this when you're thinking of your messaging, your copy. Make a note of what gets said in conversations. If you have meetings on Zoom, let's say, or online, there are AI tools that can transcribe and create summaries for you if that's easier. But to be honest, I just take manual notes. And those notes are so useful because you will find trends and patterns. And when you're looking for phrasing and what you need to say that's going to emotionally connect with someone, the notes from those calls, they'll give you the answer. You will know what it is people are struggling with and how they're feeling at that point where they seek your help. And then that's what you use in your messaging to create the desire before you sell in a way that emotionally connects. And what I really like about this is that you're now not selling a service. Instead, you're inviting someone into a possibility, one that they want to inhabit for themselves or their child. So let's think about putting into practice. What do you need to do next? If you're ready to apply this, here's a simple way to start rewriting your messaging. Firstly, identify who your ideal customer feels like right now. So, not just who they are demographically, how do they feel about their challenges and about their hopes? Then articulate an emotional future. So, what does success feel like? I always ask that question in discovery calls. What changes emotionally? What changes practically? Then write from that imagined future back to the present. Start with the feeling of transformation, then show how your experience bridges that gap. So, this isn't complicated language, it's just a bit of a shift where you're not telling them, you're shifting from telling them to inviting. You are, instead of explaining, you're resonating. So, before I wrap up, here are a few reflection prompts that you can think through this week if you want to put this into action. When someone reads your website or reads your content, what emotion do you want them to feel first? And you can audit your content to see if you're ticking that box. What imagined future are you inviting them to? And where in your current messaging are you leading with features or benefits instead of that transformation? Today's episode isn't about dismissing useful copywriting principle entirely. Features and benefits still have a place, but we can make them a lot more powerful in the context of our world, the education world, where clients' emotions and aspirations and trust really matter. They matter so much. So we need to move beyond that binary thinking and think in terms of that desired transformation, the emotional side first. We want to create those customers, almost like opening a gate and inviting certain people in before we sell. Thank you as always for listening. And if this episode helped you rethink how you talk about your offers, please do share it with someone who might benefit too. As always, you'll hear from me on Wednesday with my short mindset PS episode. Until then, take care.